The hotel room was on the 14th floor. Clean. Anonymous. The kind of room that exists to be forgotten. I had checked in under a different name. Paid cash at the front desk. Left my car in a parking structure 3 blocks away where nobody who knew me would see it. I had been sitting at the window for 6 hours. Watching. My house was visible from where I sat. Just barely. The right angle. The right floor. I had chosen this hotel specifically because of that view. My wife thought I was in Chicago. My office thought I was in Chicago. My phone showed a Chicago area code when I called because I had planned for that too. I had planned for everything. What I had not planned for was the moment my phone buzzed on the windowsill beside me. A notification from a security camera app one had installed in our living room 3 days ago. Motion detected. I opened the feed. The living room was empty. But something was different. The chair by the window, the one I always sit in, had been moved 6 inches to the left, facing the street. My name is Marcus Reed. I am 38 years old. And sitting in that hotel room on the 3rd night of a business trip I never took, I understood for the first time that I was not the only one who had stayed. Let me tell you about my marriage first. 7 years. Elena and I built slowly the way things worth building always are. A house in a neighborhood we had chosen together. Careers that ran parallel without competing. A routine that had become comfortable in the way routines become comfortable when you stop examining them. Elena was an architect, precise, detail-oriented, the kind of person who noticed when a picture frame was 2 degrees off center and quietly corrected it without mentioning it to anyone. I ran a mid-sized logistics firm, long hours, frequent travel, the kind of work that asks more than it announces. We were not a perfect marriage, but we were a functioning one. Until 4 months ago, when something shifted in a way I couldn't name immediately. Small things first. The way she looked at her phone and put it face down when I entered a room. The way certain conversations ended just slightly too quickly. The way she smiled at me, sometimes with the specific quality of a person maintaining something rather than feeling it. I told myself I was imagining it. For 3 months, I told myself that. Then 6 days ago, I found something in the pocket of her gray coat. A receipt from a hotel, 20 minutes from our house, dated a Tuesday, 3 weeks ago, when she had told me she was working late. Before I tell you what I found on day 3 of watching my own house from a hotel window, if you have ever stayed silent when you should have asked one simple question, you already know exactly where this story is going. Subscribe to Cold Drama Stories so you never miss what comes next. New story every single day. Now let me tell you what I did next. I didn't confront her. I want to be clear about that because it matters to everything that came after. I did not confront her because I understood something about the architecture of secrets that years of running a business had taught me. When you confront too early, you get the version of the truth the other person has prepared. When you wait, you get the real one. So I planned. I told Elena on a Monday evening that I had a 3-day conference in Chicago. Told her I was leaving Wednesday morning. Early flight. Wouldn't be back until Friday night. She nodded. Asked which hotel. I told her. She said to text when I landed. I watched her face carefully while I said all of it. Nothing. No relief. No calculation. Just the same steady attention she brought to everything, which told me either she was completely innocent or completely prepared. Wednesday morning, I kissed her goodbye at 6 a.m., loaded my bag into the car, drove to the airport, parked in long-term parking, took the shuttle to departures, walked inside, waited 40 minutes, took a cab to the hotel I had booked 2 weeks earlier on a card she didn't know about, checked in, set up my equipment, and began watching my own life from 14 floors up and 3 blocks away. Day 1 was ordinary. Elena left for work at her normal time, returned at 6:30, made dinner, watched something on television, went to bed at 10:47. I watched all of it through the security feed I had installed in the living room and kitchen. Small cameras. She hadn't found them. I was certain of that. The only unusual thing was the phone. She made 3 calls after dinner that I couldn't hear through the feed. Each one lasted between 8 and 14 minutes. She walked to the bedroom for each one. I noted the times, noted the duration, told myself it could be anything. By midnight, I was questioning every decision I had made. By 2 a.m., I was certain I was wrong about all of it. By 3 a.m., I had talked myself back to certain I was right. That is what waiting does to you. It doesn't give you answers. It gives you time. And time without answers is its own particular kind of torture. Before I tell you what happened on day 2, he installed cameras. She made 3 calls he couldn't hear. He watched his own house from 14 floors away. Comment below right now. Do you think she already knew he was watching? Yes or no? I want to see your answers before you hear what happened next. Day 2 changed everything. Elena left for work as normal, but she didn't go to her office. I had placed a small GPS tracker under her car the night before I left. Her car went to an address on the east side of the city. Not her office, not a client site I recognized. A residential building. She stayed for 2 hours and 14 minutes, then drove to her office as if nothing had happened. I ran the address. The building was owned by a property management company. Standard residential. Nothing unusual on the surface. But the unit she had visited, Unit 4C, was registered to a name I recognized immediately. Daniel Voss. My oldest friend. 12 years of friendship. Best man at my wedding. Godfather to a child we had lost and never spoken about publicly. I sat at that hotel window for a very long time, looking at my house in the distance, thinking about 12 years, about a wedding speech that made Elena cry, about a hospital waiting room where Daniel had sat beside me for 6 hours without saying anything because he understood that sometimes the only thing a person needs is for someone to stay. I thought about all of that, and I thought about Unit 4C, and I did not react. I observed. My oldest friend. 12 years of friendship. Best man at my wedding. Godfather to a child we had lost and never spoken about publicly. I sat at that hotel window for a very long time, looking at my house in the distance, thinking about 12 years, about a wedding speech that made Elena cry, about a hospital waiting room where Daniel had sat beside me for 6 hours without saying anything because he understood that sometimes the only thing a person needs is for someone to stay. I thought about all of that, and I thought about Unit 4C, and I did not react. I observed. That evening Elena came home at her normal time, made dinner, everything as usual. But at 8 p.m., she did something she had never done in 7 years of marriage. She sat in my chair, the one by the window, the one she had never chosen over the sofa in 7 years of evenings. She sat in my chair facing the street, and she stayed there for 40 minutes, not reading, not on her phone, just looking out. I watched her through the feed. She was completely still. The particular stillness of someone who is thinking very carefully about something very specific. Then she picked up her phone, made a call, short, under 2 minutes. Then she did something that made me lean forward toward the screen. She looked directly at the camera I had installed above the bookshelf. Not accidentally, not a passing glance. She looked at it for exactly 3 seconds. Then she looked away and smiled. Not at anyone, just smiled. To herself. In my chair, by the window, I sat back slowly and understood something that rearranged everything I had built in my head over the previous 48 hours. She knew about the camera, which meant she had known from the beginning, which meant everything I had watched her do for 2 days she had performed for me. She sat in his chair, looked directly at the hidden camera, and smiled. Pause this video right now and comment, what would you have done in that hotel room when you saw that smile? Because what Marcus did next, I did not see coming either. I didn't sleep that night. By morning, I had 2 possibilities. 1, Elena knew I was watching and had been giving me a carefully constructed performance for 2 days. 2, everything I had seen, including the visit to Daniel's building, had been real, and she had discovered the camera afterward. I needed to know which one. So I called Daniel, not to confront, to listen. He answered on the second ring. Casual, normal. Asked how Chicago was. I told him it was good. Asked what he had been up to. He said the usual. Work, the gym, quiet week. We hung up. He had not mentioned Elena. He had not hesitated. He had not done a single thing that a guilty person does when they are surprised by a call they weren't expecting. I pulled up the tracker again. Went back through the full history. 30 days of data. She had visited that building 11 times in 30 days. Every visit between 9 a.m. and noon. Always on days I was at the office. Never on weekends. I called the property management company. Asked about Unit 4C. The woman on the phone told me Unit 4C was a commercial lease, not residential. I asked what kind of business. She said it was registered as a private investigation firm. I put the phone down very slowly. I sat with that information for a long time. My wife had been visiting a private investigation firm 11 times in 30 days. I thought about the hotel receipt in her coat pocket that had started all of this. The receipt I had found. I thought about how I had found it. It had been in the outside pocket, not the inside one. Elena kept everything in the inside pocket. Always. In 7 years of marriage, I had never seen her use the outside pocket for anything. The receipt had been placed there, for me to find. I stood up and walked to the window, looked at my house in the distance. Then I did something I should have done 3 days ago. I called her. She answered on the second ring. Her voice warm and normal the way it always was. "Hey," she said. "How's Chicago?" I took a breath. "I never went to Chicago," I said. A pause. "I know," she said. I stared at the window. "How long?" I said. "Since the beginning," she said. "From the moment you told me about the conference, I knew you weren't going." "How?" I said. "Because I've been watching you for 3 months," she said quietly. "The same way you've been watching me." She told me to come home. I drove back in silence. She was sitting at the kitchen table when I walked in. 2 folders in front of her, one on her left, one on her right. She looked completely calm. The particular calm of a person who has been preparing for a conversation for a very long time and is relieved it has finally arrived. "Sit down," she said. I sat. She slid the folder on her left toward me. I opened it. Inside was a complete record of my movements for 3 months. GPS logs, photographs, phone records, professionally compiled, dated and indexed. She had been investigating me, thoroughly, methodically, for 90 days. She slid the second folder across. "This one I know you haven't seen," she said. I opened it. Inside was a different set of documents entirely. About a man named Richard Hale, my CFO, financial transfers, offshore accounts, forged authorizations, a paper trail going back 18 months. Someone had been stealing from my company, carefully, precisely, in amounts just below every threshold that would trigger automatic review. I turned to the final page, a communication log between Richard Hale and a contact listed only as a number. I recognized the number immediately. It was mine, my personal number. Texts I had never sent. Conversations I had never had. Someone had cloned my phone and had been using my identity to authorize the transfers, to build a case that would eventually point directly at me. Elena had known for 3 months. She had found a first irregularity accidentally, a transfer that crossed her desk through a shared client, a name she recognized, a number that didn't add up. She had started investigating quietly. Not me, the source. But the source had been constructed to look like me. So for 6 weeks, she had investigated both, building 2 parallel cases simultaneously. The hotel receipt she had placed in her coat pocket was a test. She needed to know what I would do when I thought she was hiding something, whether I would confront her immediately, or whether I would do what I actually did. Watch, document, build a case. She needed to know if I was the man she thought I was, or the man someone was trying to make me look like. I sat at that kitchen table for a long time, looking at 2 folders, thinking about a hotel room on the 14th floor, about Daniel Voss in Unit 4C, who turned out to be the private investigator she had hired, my oldest friend, who had agreed immediately when Elena called him 3 months ago, because he had known me for 12 years, and had not believed for a single moment that I was capable of what someone was trying to prove. Richard Hale was arrested on a Thursday morning. The case took 8 months to fully prosecute. The company survived. Elena and I sat across from each other in that kitchen many times during those 8 months, sometimes in silence, sometimes with everything that had been unsaid between us finally finding its way into words. We had both been watching each other from a distance, both building cases, both trying to protect something, both too careful to simply ask the one question that would have answered everything in the first conversation. Do you trust me? That is the thing about 2 people who are both investigators at heart. They forget sometimes that the most important evidence is not in a folder. It is not in a GPS log. It It is not in a camera feed from 14 floors up. It is in the answer to one question that neither of us had been willing to ask out loud. Until that kitchen table, until those two folders, until the particular silence of two people who had both been watching and had both been seen. He watched her from 14 floors above his own house. She had been watching him for 90 days before that. Both building cases, both protecting the same thing from completely different angles. And one question would have ended all of it. Do you trust me? If this story made you feel something, subscribe to Quiet Revenge Stories right now. Every week a new story. Every story a reminder that the most dangerous silence in any relationship is the space between what you know and what you refuse to ask out loud. And before you leave, I want to know one thing from you. Comment below right now. She put that receipt in the wrong pocket on purpose. She tested him. He passed. Would you have asked the question, or would you have watched? Because the answer to that question says everything about who you are when you think nobody is looking. I will see you next week.